SoFloRadio.com presents CEOmanship, becoming a leader in today's business world, with your host, Steve Gordon, CEO of Gordon Partnership Group, an international business consulting firm specializing in CEO bootcamp, sales team training, as well as client growth and retention. Visit GordonPartnershipGroup.com. Gordon Partnership Group, your success is our business. And now, here's your host, Steve Gordon.
Wow, here we are, George, Mark. It's another Monday, and wow, do we have a great show. I cannot believe it. We're sitting here, and it's I'm in Hollywood, Florida. I just got back the other day. I was in Connecticut. And
yeah, you mentioned before the show. Cold.
Cold is not the word. I truly recognize now why everybody decides they want to come to Florida. I got off the airplane, and wow, it was like Jack Frost just slapped me in the face.
He was there?
He was definitely there. So yeah, I understand. And then, of course, you know, I immediately text my wife, and I'm like, holy cow, honey, all of our coats are still in storage. And I'm not a wimp, but I'm definitely a Floridian after just a few months because my hands are cold. And, you know, I used to play ice hockey, and now I'm freezing just stepping off the airplane. So, yeah, it was pretty brutal. And so immediately, because my wife loves me so much, she then said, oh, okay, I'm sorry, honey, followed by a video text of her walking on the beach behind our house with our dogs saying, it's a little chilly here too, honey. It's about 82. The water's cold, she said. But it's crazy today. I can't believe it. We're just a couple of days from Thanksgiving, and already we are today at like 90-something degrees. So it's pretty crazy. So love Florida. Anyway, my name is Steve Gordon, and I am the CEO of the Gordon Partnership Group. This show is CEOmanship, and I am pleased to be your host. CEOmanship is the radio show for business owners and CEOs, and we are not only here on SoFloRadio.com, but also on iTunes, and we'll talk about that in a second. So if you're a business owner or a CEO, you'd like to be featured on CEOmanship, you can contact me at Steve at Gordon Partnership, GORDON Partnership, PARTNERSHIP.com. And don't forget to visit CEOmanship.com after this show if you want to download a copy of today's episode, or you can watch or listen to past episodes or shows in our archive section. And, of course, again, as I mentioned, iTunes, if you never want to miss a future episode or go back and listen to some past episodes, we immediately after this show upload everything to iTunes in the podcast section. Just search for CEOmanship. And then subscribe, and this way each week the audio version of CEOmanship will be automatically delivered to your iPhone, your iPad, your desktop, or any electronic device of your listening pleasure. So, you know, I love podcasts. I'm a big listener as I ride my bike every morning. I tell you that each week. It gives me an opportunity to catch up with some of my favorite speakers and authors and people that I enjoy. And what I love about the podcast is that it's just there when I wake up. As soon as the show's uploaded, whether it's mine or somebody else's, it's right there. How do you feel about those podcasts, George?
I love them. You know, it's my business.
It's your business.
It all started that way. Actually, we started live and just decided to podcast later. It was backwards. The whole story. It has nothing to do with this.
All right. So, again, you know, we want our listeners to know, because we get emails and we get messages all the time, and people ask us, how can we have someone from Gordon Partnership come to work with our company, to work with our CEO or our sales team? And at Gordon Partnership, one of the things we do, or several of the things we do, is we have a CEO bootcamp. We work with owners of businesses that might like to continue to grow their business. Maybe you're stuck or you're flat, or you're just looking to go to the next level. Maybe you have a sales team that you're looking to grow, and you need a little bit of coaching and training that way. Or maybe you just want someone to come in and speak to your group, and we can arrange all that. It's just go to GordonPartnership.com and hit the contact button. Tell us about yourself. We'll call you within 24 hours and get right back to you. Little shameless self-promotion on Facebook. It's Gordon Partnership. On Twitter, it's Follow Steve Gord. Facebook doesn't allow enough characters, so there's no O-N on Twitter. Instagram, Gordon Partnership. LinkedIn, search for Steve Gordon and Gordon Partnership. And again, iTunes podcast library, CEOmanship, and our website, GordonPartnership.com. Today, our show is sponsored. You can see those of you watching the show today live, and if you're listening and you want to watch, just go to SoFloRadio.com and click on the little TV icon, and you can watch what's going on behind the scenes.
Yes, I can. Even on your mobile device, we tested it this morning, streamlined everything. If you want to listen, press the listen button. If you want to watch, press the watch button. It takes you right to SoFloTelevision.com, and you have the option of watching the live stream or hitting the previously recorded and watching any previous show on YouTube, including all of the Steve Gordon shows where you can watch him leaning on his right arm, disappearing behind the microphone.
That was your subtle way of telling me I'm leaning and I'm getting out of the camera picture again. Okay, and I'm not by the microphone. Okay, so there we go. Thanks for fixing that, George. Today, our show is brought to you by the Smart Homeowners Program. Now, imagine this. If you own a home and you are in 19 or 20 states right now and continuing to grow, imagine this. You're going to sell your home someday, right? Right, Mark?
Yes, I am.
And so you're going to probably use a professional real estate, maybe a broker from your local community?
Yes, and there's so many great ones out there.
There you go. And so imagine that you're going to pick somebody right from your county. You're not going to go to like Tampa to buy to find someone to sell your home. So imagine if we said to you, look, you're going to sell your home. You're going to use a broker from your local community anyway. So we, the Smart Homeowners Program, what they've done is put together the largest broker-to-broker network in the United States of America. And what that means is this. They partnered up with brokers to form a referral network. And they say to you, Mark, well, maybe not to you specifically, but they say, Mark, if you'll just do one thing, if you will choose a broker from our network, which is pretty much every broker in your community anyway, and use one of them to help you to sell your home, then we, meaning they, will pay you between $300 and up to $10,000 today over the next several years in exchange for that commitment in the future. Now, are you obligated to sell your home? No. Are you committed to a particular broker? No. You can change your mind anytime up until the time you sign a contract. All they say is just pick a broker from our list, which is pretty much everybody you're going to use anyway because it's everyone you work with, and you can cash in now. So you could have money. It's like, and sometimes they pay you over 3 or 4 or 5 years to get that total amount. So it's like getting an extra birthday gift every single year in the form of cashola.
That's fantastic. But can I ask you one question?
We didn't rehearse this, so I don't know.
But what if I'm a broker and I'm not on that list? Can I get in touch with them to get on that list?
Yes, you can. And if you go to the website, which is smarthomeownersprogram.org, smarthomeownersprogram.org, there is a contact button, and that's where the broker would go to become part of the group. And by the way, there's no charge for the broker. Wow. And that's also where a homeowner would go. And it's really simple, 3 steps. Just enter your name, your email address, tell us your home, who owns it. If there's multiple owners, you put the husband and wife or the parents or whoever it is. And just fill in a little bit more information. It's just as they ask you, and within a couple of minutes, you'll see what your house qualifies for, and you'll be on your way. So again, that's smarthomeownersprogram.org. Anyway, gentlemen, we have a great guest today. Gene Marks. Gene is a columnist. Gene is an author. He's also the CEO of the Philadelphia-based Marks Group, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Gene also writes a daily column for the New York Times, weekly for Forbes, Huffington Post, Inc. Magazine, Entrepreneur, Fox Business, and Philadelphia Magazine. Gene, I hope you can hear us. It is really great to have you on the show. So welcome to CEOmanship.
Steve, thank you very much. You were talking about podcasts before. Have you guys heard or listened to that podcast called Serial? Do you know about this phenomenon?
Do tell.
So it's a podcast that started by NPR, and it started at the beginning of October. And they have like more than 1 million downloads a week. It's like a weekly. It's called Serial, Serial. It's like a soap opera. I haven't listened to it yet, but I heard it's all about. It's like almost like a TV show, except it's done through podcasts, and it's had like a phenomenal response and following, and it's completely reinvigorated the podcast world. Because Steve, you were saying you're a fan of podcasts, and so am I. But this is like, it's always been sort of a niche thing, and sometimes people are like, what are podcasts and how do I use them or whatever. This thing has totally been like a huge phenomenon for NPR, and this show has been like a huge draw. They've been drawing more than many TV shows, which is pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing. One of the things that George and Mark and I always talk about is that radio is really the only passive medium in the entertainment world. In other words, you have to sit and watch television. You can watch a ball game on your cell phone or your iPad, but you have to physically be in one place or be carrying your phone in front of you. You can't be driving. but you can, and in radio and that same type of medium, of course, I include podcasts because you can do, like I was saying, I get up every morning, I ride my bicycle, down by the beach. You can run, you can be working out, you can be sitting at your desk in your office doing other things and be listening to an audio podcast or a radio show. So every time I say, George, what do you think about the radio as a medium? He says, never going to go away because...
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, it's funny, too, because, it'll be delivered in different ways. I mean, now we have it, online like you're doing, or by regular traditional commercial airwaves, satellite, podcasts as well. But you're right. It's like a great way to get information. And I tell you, I know a lot of people that listen to podcasts, a lot of people that listen to satellite radio, audible.com, if you just feel like just downloading books. And they also have a podcast section as well.
Right.
It's hugely popular. So that'll never go away. I completely agree with you guys. It'll never go away.
Well, we're
Great
glad.
way to get the message out.
We're glad. It's interesting, too, because if you do the studies or if you read the studies and you look, and this is a little bit of a cheap shot at some of our local traditional radio stations, but the reality is that the actual listenership to any typical AM local station, for example, is very, very minimal at any one time. The beauty of what we do here is that it lives in perpetuity. It lives in eternity. Because we take this show, it goes up into iTunes. Somebody 3 years from now can download this and listen to Gene and go, oh my goodness, I need to contact that guy and hire him for our corporation.
Yeah, I guess it's like whatever you focus on, right? I mean, you talk about different businesses that have succeeded in marketing, and you only get out of it what you put into it. So you're right. I mean, you're doing this, you're recording it, you're putting it up on iTunes, so it's there forever. I mean, you could go back to it and back to it again to not only market it for future listeners, but you've got this whole resource, this whole data trove of content that you, Steve, can be delivering to your clients as well. And saying, oh, well, we did an episode on exactly this issue we're talking about. Let me send you a link to it. And that just kind of helps, you keep a conversation going and keep people connected. It's actually a really good thing. The other thing is that there's very inexpensive tools for editing nowadays. It's just time is what the expense is. But I don't know, how long have you been doing this show, Steve?
We're in about our third month.
Yeah, third month. So you got 3 months of content already that you've got going here. When you think about it, like after a year of doing this, if you've got the time, or if you hire some communications student from a local college to go through your 3 months of broadcasts and pick out, like, you do a special 1 hour show on, the best of SoFlo Radio in 2014. And then, redistribute that as another content, re-air it, and then also send it out to your audience and whatever. It never dies. You can always repurpose this stuff again and again. It's a great medium. It really
George,
is.
are you catching this?
Yeah, I'm writing all this down. Oh, that's part of my sales pitch.
Yeah, it works.
Oh, it is great, and what's really interesting, and this is a little bit off the list of questions I had for you, but it's important because I think that our listeners, many of them don't take advantage of multiple streams of media for marketing purposes. But what's great about this is that I watch the numbers, and it's not necessarily about the number of live listeners. I mean, of course, we love live listeners. Right. But it's about the bump that we see when all of a sudden, the guest puts something up on their social media or on a website, or somebody, we watch the downloads on iTunes. And so I can watch every single day the number of downloads, and it's really amazing. Or how one show can drive multiple downloads, and then that delivers value to older guests who come on, who all of a sudden start to see an increase in traffic, or maybe a telephone call from somebody somebody didn't even listen to their show originally, but because somebody listens to your show, goes back to the archives and goes, oh wow, let me see what else they did, and they're really into sports memorabilia and want to hire an athlete for maybe an event, their corporate event, and they see somebody we both know, a gentleman named Andy Levy, who was a guest on the show, and all of a sudden they go, wow, I want to go and hire his corporation to get me a ball player to speak at an event for my corporation. So I love what we're doing, and it's I think we're just at the early stages, and you say it's all about data mining, data capture, and
it is. Well, I got a couple things for you in particular. I mean, because you have business owners and CEOs that listen to the show. For starters, you're right about it. It doesn't really make a difference how many people are listening to it live, because nowadays it's not a live world. I mean, we binge watch shows on Netflix. We TiVo stuff all the time. We record it. It's not Doesn't have to be happening at the moment. More importantly, it gives you something to talk about. Like I have events for my company. I mean, we'll talk about this soon, but like we sell CRM software, customer relationship management software. So we do like live events every month. We'll have like some type of CRM event at a hotel nearby. Sometimes 60 people might sign up for it and 10 people might show. And I don't really care, because if 60 people signed up for it, that means I've got 60 people that were interested in learning more. They just didn't happen to come. The event served its purpose. And in your case, you're doing this show. That serves its purpose. It's something you're talking about with your clients and your community before the show. It's something that you'll talk about after the show. It's all content. And as long as you're helping your community, that's really important. One thing I can suggest to you as well, this again for people that are listening, when you're doing, have you guys played around with Google Hangouts at all, or Hangouts on Air?
We have shows that use Google Hangouts as a distribution. We use Ustream for the live feed, and the problem with Google Hangouts is it generates a different link every time.
It does.
And so what we use is we use embeds for people that take advantage of the live stream. They have an embed to the live video stream, so that when the video stream pops on, it just immediately plays in that window that they put on their website. And Hangouts doesn't have that, so.
Perfect. That's great. As long as you're using some type of a streaming service, and Ustream is excellent, then that way at least you're getting out to a different audience. Because even though we were just talking about how great radio is, and you don't need to watch, sometimes people like to watch.
We're multimedia here at SoFlo Radio and SoFlo Television. Also, new thing used to have to have an app for Ustream, but not anymore. Now it'll launch on anything. The Ustream video on any platform, any device, any laptop. It's great now.
That's great. That really is great. Good. I'm glad you're doing that.
Well, I appreciate that. So Gene, let me ask you. You got this business, which we're definitely going to spend a lot of time talking about, and your books and so much that you've accomplished. But I want to go back to the very, very beginning. Now, you and I actually went to school together. But before that,
yes.
When you were growing up, did you grow up in a family of business owners, entrepreneurs, or were you the first?
No, my father was the absolute world's worst entrepreneur. He actually he's a CPA and a consultant. And he when I was in college, when I knew you, Steve, he was about my age now. He was like in his 40s or 50s. He developed accounting software, bookkeeping software. He quit his job and raised about $4 million at the time to develop a bookkeeping software, which is the world's worst bookkeeping software. It was like this DOS-based software system that he called Ledger Systems. And he ran out of money before it finished. And not only had no money to actually finish the product, but he was introducing it around the time when like QuickBooks and Peachtree were hitting the markets back in the 80s. So timing was not good. And he was a failed entrepreneur. I mean, he always had that dream, but from a financial standpoint, he never really got it together and made it happen. He was the one that told me when I went to Lehigh with you, Steve, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And he said, look, take accounting. That's what he knows, right? Parents, that's what they advise their kids. And said, at the very least, you want to go on the business route. If you graduate from college with a CPA, you'll be able to hang a shingle. You can, worst comes to worst, you can always do somebody's taxes. You got to trade. And that was good advice. I mean, that kind of got me started, but not, his entrepreneurial ways. And then him and I went into business together a few years later.
That was good thinking.
Yeah, and it was funny. So the story was that I worked like almost 9 years at KPMG, and then I left and I went into business with him because I was like missing something from my brain when I decided to do that. And his software was so bad that it needed a CPA to come along with it. Like you would sell it. And
Well, that's actually very smart business, because you buy the software and then you pay for the consulting.
Right. So it's kind of like it didn't do like basic like reporting and like things you would expect even back then from an accountant. But he'd be like, oh, no. When we sell you, you're going to also have Gene as part of the package, and he'll take care of basically filling in the gaps that the software should have done out of the box. But then the world's greatest thing happened. It was the year 2000 came around, and you know how like the whole world was like worried that planes were going to fall out of the sky.
Y2K.
Yeah, everybody's worried that everything was going to stop working, and really everything
Not everybody.
kept working. Except for my dad's software. That stopped working.
So, I want you to know that I went to bed early that night because I figured, okay, I got an email from a friend of mine in Australia, and it was
Right.
after midnight there, And I turned and I said, okay, the world didn't end in Australia, so we're good over here in the States.
Seems like that's the case. Of course, the world ended for my dad's software.
I'm sorry.
And that was the greatest thing that ever happened, because then we had to resell other people's software, which is what I always wanted to do. And because he didn't want to do that, because he wanted his own stuff. And so then that's how we started growing the company once that happened.
Now, at that point, were you still working with your father, or?
Yeah, still was. I mean, my dad died back in 2005.
Oh, I'm
but,
sorry to hear that.
That's all right. So we were working together, but then we grew it to like 10 people, just selling, and we were selling accounting software. And then, I mean, guys, that is so boring, selling accounting. It's so boring. And even though I'm a CPA, I'm not a very good CPA. I mean, I admit it. I'm not, for me, if it's close enough, it's good enough. And that's not the way I want to do for a CPA.
Yeah, so I guess you're not doing my taxes.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want me doing your taxes. I like the CRM stuff, the customer relationship management software. At the time, it was like Act and Goldmine. I
remember. I had probably one of the first versions of Act. And for those of our listeners, I mean, I'm sure most of our listeners understand, but CRM is a way to track your clients. It's and a good CRM system, and you'll correct me or bring me up to speed, but it should really do everything. It should track your follow-ups, keep phone numbers and emails, and if somebody actually has a fax these days, or even social media, and remind you when to do what task, and should keep you on task.
Correct. That's exactly. I mean, a good CRM system is designed to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks and nobody looks like a dope. That's what it's supposed to do.
I have a personal saying, and I share this with a lot of my clients when I meet with them, because a lot of times, and you and I, we have a lot of the same, very similar type of clients, small business owners, small to medium business owners, and in almost every case, one of the challenges that these owners face is that they have always done everything. I always say this on every show. They do everything from buying the coffee at Costco to paying the bills to hiring, firing, training, running sales meetings. And so you can't do everything. And I try to explain that the smartest people aren't necessarily the ones who know the most, but the ones who have the ability to access information most rapidly. And in that genre of accessing information, one of the things that I think totally fills my mind is trying to remember to do everything. So for those of you watching, I'm holding up my iPhone, but my entire life is, in the cloud in terms of scheduling. And I try to teach my clients the same thing. I constantly have reminders popping up on my phone. And if it weren't for that, I would not remember to make phone calls or to pay bills or anything else. And that is what a business owner needs. A sales manager, a sales team needs somebody who's silently reaching over your shoulder and whispering into your ear saying, Gene, you need to call, Mr. Smith because he said he wants to buy between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
It's absolutely right. It's absolutely right. So technology is a big part of that, and that's what CRM systems do. And look, I mean, you touched on such a great point, Steve, that about business owners. You got to leave go. You got to surround yourself with smart people, smarter than you, and you can't be afraid to delegate and let other people do the work for you. The best example, and you're probably going to disconnect when I say this, but I love talking about Kim Kardashian, because this is a woman who made a sex tape, and she is a multi-zillionaire now. For whatever opinion you have on her, I don't want anybody dissing on Kim Kardashian. She's like a pretty smart woman.
Yeah, it didn't work for me when I tried it at all.
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to have a partner. But let's get back to the show.
I'm writing this down. This is some good advice.
Well, I went online and I was exposing my rear end, and nobody was looking at it. So, but she's able to do. She is actually somebody that she fascinates me because she does clearly surround herself with smart people. I mean, she has ideas, but she's got people that are clearly a management team and PR people and promotional people that execute ideas for her. And she's not afraid to surround herself with people smarter than her and let her do her thing. She's certainly not afraid to take abuse for it as well. And I just think that's a characteristic of a really successful business person.
Well, I was looking at one of your recent articles. It might have been in the New York Times or one of the magazines, and you talked about the fact that getting things done requires taking action.
Right. And you know this, I mean, and you consult with a lot of business owners, as do I. But, I meet so many. My dad, we talked about my dad earlier. I don't want this to turn into a therapy session, okay? But when we talked about my dad, we were mentioning, about a bad business owner. That guy, he would plan, try to figure out every option and every answer for every conceivable thing instead of just doing it. And, again, the guys that I know, and I mean guys and girls that succeed, they do it. They do a little bit of planning, and then they just go and they execute. And, they make mistakes, they adjust. They figure things out, they move forward. The real successful entrepreneurs that I have met are people that are not afraid to make mistakes. They've got a little bit of the gut that they take, a gut feeling, and they go forward with it. Plans only last so long.
Yeah, we call that analysis paralysis. And,
Yep.
there are two kinds of people. I am sort of the one that goes, okay, let's go.
Right.
And we'll course correct as we're going.
Right.
But when you're someone like myself, it's challenging when you work with somebody who is very, very analytical, because the truth is you're never, ever going to analyze something to the point of perfection. And
Right.
so you can try, and I'm an engineer, so really, statistically, that's a pun, isn't it, George? Statistically, engineer, all that stuff. Ooh, bringing back my college years. But realistically, for me, if A plus B does not equal C, then it's not correct. But at some point, I'm not ready, fire, aim, but I am ready, aim, and let's just take the shot and let's just see where it goes. And if I'm off by a little bit, we'll adjust the the viewfinder and we'll shoot again. But yeah, it makes me it frustrates me a little bit when I meet somebody who's very, very, very analytical. And says, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I'm going to do this. And finally, I have to sit down with that business owner and say, okay, let's just pick one. And let's just, there's an expression I often use, which is, how do you eat an elephant? And I'm sure you probably heard this before. And the answer is one bite at a time. And so if you're looking at this monumental task and you're dealing with a client and they're afraid to take that first step, or they really want to make sure it's going to work, sometimes we just have to take that little baby step and figure it out and say, okay, look, we did this. And my wife, who often calls into the show, and so you might have the pleasure of getting a question from her. She is always saying, she's got this little expression which is check. She's big on like these wall-sized Post-it notes. I don't know if you've ever seen them at Staples, but you can buy them, and they're about 2 feet by 3 feet or 2 feet by 4 feet. And
Right.
she's big on lists. And then as soon as we accomplish something, she walks over and puts a check next to us, and she goes, check. And George is showing me his notebook. Well, that's scribble, but okay.
No, those are
check
the
Wait,
checked
my
off
notebook.
things.
I'm in agreement with your wife.
There you go. So for those of you watching, Gene, or for listening, not watching, Gene just held up a checklist and has items checked off. I think it's great because you also get a feeling of accomplishment. There's that book, Eat a Frog. And if you've never read it, the theory of Eat a Frog is basically eating a frog really stinks. I mean, who wants to eat a frog, right? So the idea is if you look at your list and every night, and the first thing you do in the morning when you're fresh, when you have energy, when you're ready to attack the world, is you put the worst thing on the top of your list and you eat that frog, because after you eat a frog, nothing else could be as bad throughout the rest of the day.
I think that's great. I really do. I couldn't agree with you more. And having said that, everything is about balance. And, there are some people that do plan well and some people that are more analytical. And if you're a smart business owner, you should respect that. But there is a balance. You can only do so much planning. The guy in that article you mentioned, I wrote that for Entrepreneur. He owned like a brew pub. Like it was a microbrewery in Northern California. And he decided to open up the first American microbrewery in Germany. It was in Germany. And he traveled all around, Europe before settling on Germany. Couldn't speak a word of German, and is opening up this pub in downtown Berlin. Spending like I don't know, $5 or $10 million in investing on this, but that's not all his life savings. So clearly, no entrepreneur bets everything on bets the farm on anything. But in the end, I asked him, how much planning? How do you know this is going to succeed? Do you have market studies? Did you do whatever? And he looked at me and he was like, there's only so much planning you can do. You got to have a gut. You got to just go for it. So I'm going for it.
It's pretty courageous to bring an American beer microbrewery into Germany.
The heart of Germany, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough market.
It's a cool idea.
Gene, we have to take a break for a little bit, and we will be back. Stick with us, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about your company. We're going to talk about your books, your appearances on TV and radio. But until then, this is Steve Gordon. You're listening to CEOmanship on SoFloRadio.com.
More CEOmanship with Steve Gordon next on SoFloRadio.com.
Put a team of professional consultants behind your home or business computer with Key Information Solutions, providing solutions to your internet and computing needs while keeping you on the cutting edge of technology. Preventative maintenance and networking support, hardware and custom-built computers. Let Key Information Solutions be your personal tech staff for your home or office with affordable hourly, monthly, or annual rates to fit anyone's budget. Call Key Information Solutions now. 954-973-3374. That's 954-973-3374. Or visit keyinformation.com.
Strawberry patch and smoothie.
Get your hands off me.
Huh?
I said don't touch me.
I shouldn't have went to that party last night. Now I'm seeing talking fruit.
You're not dreaming, Bub, and you're not putting me in that blender.
But you're just a fruit.
Who you calling a fruit?
You are. You're a delicious passion fruit.
Why, sure I'm passionate. How would you like to be blended, huh? I got right, you know.
Customers waiting. You gotta go.
Yeah, but wait, you can...
At Power Smoothie in Aventura, we show fruit no mercy. Always fresh, always delicious. To make the best smoothies and wraps on earth, try our new cilantro lime-alicious wrap or our hot chipotle chicken. Power Smoothie in Aventura, located just north of the Aventura Mall in the Promenade Shops. Or call 305-792-5338. Open 7 days a week.
By the Glass.
By the Glass is a show about beverage culture.
Brad Hubbard.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the dots on how everything works together. It's really all about how we enjoy things, how we enjoy life, and how beverages play a big part in that. I'm going to bring in people that are going to display their aspect of the culture. I'm going to bring in people that are going to show you different products. We're going to look at places where people go to consume these beverages and how they all interact. Things are built around the actual beverage itself.
By the Glass. Thursdays from 6 to 7. Only on SoFloRadio.com.
Now, back to CEOmanship with Steve Gordon on SoFloRadio.com.
We are back. This is Steve Gordon, and I am the CEO of the Gordon Partnership Group. I'm here on SoFloRadio.com with my producer, George Rodriguez.
Yay.
And Mr. Mark Anoff, social media expert, probably tweeting or twiddling, or what are you doing over there?
We're
right now?
doing some tweeting and some Facebook posting and even some LinkedIn postings.
And are you tagging things like SoFlo Radio, Gene Marks? What are you tagging?
Yes, Gene Marks, SoFlo Radio, and even Steve Gordon.
Love it.
As well as CEOmanship.
Great.
And the Gordon Partnership Group.
Thank you so
Get
much.
them all in at once.
Isn't it crazy? So I've got Gene Marks, founder, CEO of the Marks Group in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Gene, isn't it pretty amazing? We were talking about the use of social media or audio, radio, multimedia for marketing. And now it's almost like you can't even just be involved in one form of media, because here we are, we're having this conversation, and George to my left is preparing everything for iTunes and YouTube and websites. Mark to my right, left on the video screen, is going through social media and responding to questions and comments and posts and pushing out information. And it's this battlefield of information. So.
It's nuts, isn't it? And isn't that like every business owner's dilemma is, where do you go? How do you know what I mean? Where's your audience? How do you find them? Should I spend time on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or just email? Or there's so many choices and options nowadays,
Well, one of the things we do when we're sitting with our clients is, my company, it's not just about CEO boot camp and working with the business owner. But I have a whole division for marketing, for example. And so somebody needs a new website or needs a social media expert. It's a lot of business owners. They go, yeah, I've got social media. I go, really? They go, yeah, my 17-year-old high school senior, my daughter, is really good on Facebook. And I'm not saying that she isn't. But we often can find a better solution. So we have a department that does that, not only to do it for them, but to train them. And I'm sure you've seen that with a lot of your clients as well. So, Gene, your company, one of the things you do is you have a CRM software package. Is this, you talked about migrating from the accounting to CRM, and the importance of making sure you never forget to a task, or to make sure you stay on task. But is this now your proprietary software, or is it?
No, not at all. And if you can tell, Steve, for those of you that are watching, I can turn on my luxurious corporate offices here. We have the nerve center of the Marks Group. We used to, you and I were talking before the show, but we used to have official offices outside of Philadelphia. I have 10 employees now, and we closed them down like 8 years ago. Everybody works from home.
How is that?
It is, our overhead is nothing. I mean, I used to have these offices and like nobody would come, because we're all out doing projects at clients. So I'm paying overhead and rent and, for like nothing. So from a cash flow standpoint, particularly during the last recession, it's great. The downside is that we are you're the world's most like dysfunctional company. I mean, we see each other as a group like 2 times a year for like summer and Christmas lunch. Which reminds me, I got to schedule that Christmas lunch. And but we talk to each other during the day. We see each other with clients, but it's definitely a different culture than if you've got like an office and everybody's going there and hanging out and bonding together. We don't have that kind of a culture in this company.
Well, it's interesting because I've worked, in a home office, and I think that the great part is if you're really focused, you can get a lot of work done. And I could probably do more work in between 9 and noon. Well, I'm up much earlier than 9, but I can get more work done before lunchtime when working out of my house than I can, an entire day in an office because I don't have the distractions.
Right.
But you're right. If you're the kind of person that thrives on that socialization and needs that interaction with other people, then it's a very challenging situation. What do you do? Do you bring people together through video conferencing? I mean, I'm sure you have to powwow with your employees on a regular basis.
We do. So we use, kind of taking a step back. So the company sells 5 CRM applications. So we sell Salesforce.com, and we implement all of them. Microsoft Dynamics CRM, Zoho CRM, Goldmine CRM, which some people find hard to believe because they're very good. It's just they've been around for years. And a little product called Nimble. And we have about 600 active clients. So we've got projects going on all over the place, mostly in the Mid-Atlantic area. So when we talk, obviously it's by phone, it's by cell phone. We use Google Hangouts a lot and Skype, like we're doing right now, to have phone calls, face to face. We use free conference call. We share I don't know if you ever use freeconferencecall.com, but it's awesome.
It is a great secret that shouldn't be a secret.
Yeah, and freeconferencecall.com is interesting because it is you can have your conversation go up to 6 hours with 100 people on a call for free on freeconferencecall.com. It's just nuts. And not many people, do you guys know? I know maybe, George seems pretty smart. Do you guys
he's got
know,
you fooled.
George, any idea how Free Conference Call makes its money? Do you know?
I don't. Do they have ads in the margin? Because it only takes a little. It only takes one.
It's close.
They're playing a numbers game like Google. If you get a lot of people using it, if 0.1% of the people click on any small ad for a redirect or something, that pays for everything.
Right. So advertising revenue is absolutely one part of it, and I'd say what their biggest share is that if you ever use Free Conference Call, they give you like this obscure area code to call, and what they do is they've made deals with like these exchanges. Say you're running like a telephone exchange in the middle of nowhere, Montana. Free Conference Call comes to you and says, "Hey, we're gonna give out all of our customers this number for your exchange. So calls are going to be routed through your exchange, your sleepy little exchange. And all we're asking for is 0.25%, just like they did on Office Space. Do you remember they took like 0.25% from all the revenues coming in,
right.
Except that it got out of hand. But that's how their lion's share of their money is that by routing calls through different exchanges. It's kind of cool.
It is really cool.
So freeconferencecall.com is a great service.
Do you use their other service? I believe Start Meeting is part of Free Conference Call, which is a video version.
Right, and we do not. We use an online webinar service called glance.net, glance.net, which is we've used it for years and very inexpensive. A lot of people use WebEx and GoToMeeting, which are also excellent. Join.me is a wonderful service where you can share your desktop wherever you are, like immediately. So if you want to see what's on my desktop, I just send you a link to my join.me desktop, and you're immediately seeing it. So that's also wonderful as well. And then there's like a proliferation of collaboration applications that are hitting Box.net and Dropbox and those kinds of tools. We pretty much stay focused on our CRM application. We share all our information through there. So we get it done. we get it done.
You do get it done. So you have the virtual office. Everybody works from home essentially,
Right.
and you still get it done, which is amazing. But you know what? In today's world, with iPads, iPhones, every type of media available, you can be anywhere. I was actually supposed to be living in Hawaii right now, and just a last minute change. And people said, well, how are you going to run business from Maui? And I said, the same way I'd run it from anywhere else. Doesn't really matter. Just in the Pacific instead of the Atlantic. But that changed, and that's okay. And here we are, and
Right.
here we are. So, Gene, I want to turn the corner a little bit. You've authored, I believe it's 6 books now.
Right.
And the newest book is called The Manufacturer's Book of Lists. And I want to talk about that because it's your newest book. But I actually, on my last flight, I read pretty much cover to cover with a yellow Sharpie, highlighter, I mean, which is in my hand. You can't see it, but our audience can see it. I read Outfoxing the Small Business Owner, which really was great because and it was born out of your experience with business owners. And you talk about 7 different types of business owners and how if you're working or selling to those business owners, the appropriate way to deal with each one. And my first question, first of all, I want to tell you thank you, because I actually learned a lot about some of my clients, and it was an easy read, but a really good read. And I went back a second time and reread my notes and found new notes. But you mentioned some names as you talk about these individual types of business owner. And I would just like to know, even though you say, I had a client named so-and-so, were these real people, or did you make those names up?
Yeah, they are real people. I mean, they are. I changed the names to protect the innocent. And by the way, let me also first say, Steve, that what a sad life you live. If that's what you're doing on a plane flight, you're reading Outfoxing the Small Business Owner. I cannot say. You need to drink more and watch more movies when you fly.
Right.
Okay? Just my advice to you.
But it's funny because my largest client at this moment is in the wine industry, and they usually sponsor this show. So I'll throw them a plug since you just said it. It's grapeswine.com, grapes with an S. And so there's plenty of time for that. But no, when you fly all the time, sometimes, and I fly an airline that has those little TVs in the back of the seat in front of you.
Right.
But after a while, you can only watch so much Jerry Springer. And so, because I fly in the morning, and that's kind of what's on.
There's always Dr. Phil if you get bored of Jerry Springer. I'm just saying.
I did enjoy your book, and so now here we have the Manufacturer's Book of Lists, and this is well, maybe you want to tell our audience a little bit about, because you have the other book that's called the Small Business Book of Lists, and these are books, and we're actually pushing the images of the books up on the screen. I see you're holding it up as well.
Right.
And I'm holding up copies for the camera, but George has actually pushed the actual image from Amazon or from your website, and feel free to tell our listeners where they can buy your books. But what was the basis behind your books of lists, the Small Business Book of Lists and the Manufacturer's Book of Lists?
So the Small Business Book of Lists, which it's old now, it's like 2005, 2006. So I would like to update it, and I was planning on updating it, and I thought to make it more vertical. Every business owner that I talk to, it just seems like, not every, you can't generalize, but many of them are like me. Like, we've got ADD. We don't have time to get answers. And they're like, give me the answers right away. You know what I mean? All right, I'm about to interview this kid for this marketing. What are 5 things I should be asking this guy? You know what I mean? I need a new accountant. What are 5 things I should be looking for in a new account? What are the 5 top tax deductions I should be thinking of this year? What are the 5 ways I can reduce the overhead of my plant? Or give me 10 things I should be considering to improve safety, out of my warehouse.
Well, let me just interject, because you just said 5 ways I can save on my taxes. I believe you just said that. So here we are, small business owners. What would you say? I mean, I know you have that accounting degree, and now you just threw it out there. So if I were thinking of things, maybe a small mistake that somebody might make or overlook, could you? Are you giving away the farm?
I really can. Yeah, I absolutely can. I mean, you're here now. First of all, and we switch over to a tax topic. It's right before Thanksgiving now. So if you're just thinking of your 2014 taxes, not good, because we only have a month left in the year, but you still got time. So first of all, one way to save on your taxes, you want to meet with your CPA as soon as possible, because you don't have that meeting in January of 2015 where you can't do anything, or even the last week of 2014. So that's number one. But number two is a few different things. The most overlooked deduction in 2014 is retirement plans. There is only 30% of small business owners actually have a 401k plan in their company, which to me is astounding. So at the very least, your 401k, your personal IRA, maybe you have a SEP plan, some other type of retirement plan. Are you fully funding your retirement? Because in a high tax environment that we're in right now, retirement plans and putting money away there, tax deferred, it's like it's a bright light of hope in a very dark tax world right now. So that's something you definitely want to take advantage of before the end of the year, and you even have until the end of next quarter to do that.
Is it very difficult? Oh, sorry, Jay. Is it difficult for a small business owner who might not have any type of retirement plan set up for their employees, even if it's just maybe a husband and wife, or 3 or 4 people in a company? How hard is it, and how time consuming is it? What would you do?
Easy as pie. I mean, first of all, the best thing you can do, you can talk to your accountant, talk to your attorney, Principal Financial Group, Merrill Lynch, any big financial services company. Capital One, they have partnerships. Capital One Bank has partnerships with companies that create and administer 401k plans. It literally takes days to do. And once you have it done, you can not only encourage people to make contributions, you can match those contributions, get a tax deduction for it. Then those people themselves get money put away for their retirement, which is a good thing. And then you can contribute to your own account. And the more that your employees put away, the more you can put away for yourself, so it's not discriminatory. So you want them to save as much as possible, and you still have time to get it done. If you were to start working on it this week, you could have a retirement plan up and running by the end of next week, with the whole month of December still to make contributions to it. And it's just a big overlooked thing and an easy thing to do. So that's one big thing you should do.
Did you just say that if I were matching the funds put into my employees' accounts, that I get a deduction for that match as well? You get a
deduction. That's correct. So you get a deduction for that, and not only that, but the more money that your employees are putting away, you can also then contribute to your own retirement account as well. Remember, if you're running the business, Steve, and you're just putting money away for yourself, and you're putting this away into like a regular plan, that could be discriminatory. They want you to keep it equal with what your employees are doing. So the more your employees are also contributing to the plan, the more ability it gives you to put money away for retirement to your own plan as well.
All right, so
that's something you absolutely should look into.
So how about this? There are a lot of folks. You and I talked. I asked you if you worked with your wife at one point, and you said that you did for a while. So what about a company where maybe you're an S chapter, or maybe a small LLC, and it's a husband and wife, or maybe a husband, wife, children? Is that considered double dipping in a sense? Or if I'm paying, let's say I own the business, my wife works for me, and she puts away money in her retirement, I put away money in the retirement, but at the same time I'm matching at the corporate level. So we're getting like 4 times, like 4 benefits.
Correct. You're absolutely right. And not only that, in very small businesses, you can set up something called a single employer plan, a SEP plan, where if you and your wife, and maybe you can have a couple of employees that also participate in it, you can put money away for yourselves individually. There's no double dipping, and then both of you guys can have your own retirement plans put away for savings. And frankly, that's what my wife and I do as well. Not only that, don't forget there's IRA plans, just personally, you could be putting away and contribute to. So there's all sorts of ways that you could be putting money away for retirement and pre-tax to save on what your taxable income is. Particularly if you're in an S corp, you can take a big deduction for it and lower your S corp's income before the end of the year. So talk to your accountant about putting as much away in some type of retirement plan before the end of the year. There's one other I can also add to it when we talk about tax tips. People overlook the tax credit from the Affordable Care Act. And depending on your business, it might not be that much, but it might be. So if you've got less than 25 employees in your business and you're paying on average $50,000 a year or less on average for your employees, excluding you, you might be entitled to a tax credit for the health insurance premiums you're paying if you do provide a health insurance plan. And that's a credit.
So you're saying
back and carry it forward.
If you're paying less than $50,000 a year in overall health insurance.
Correct. So if you're paying less than average $50,000 per employee, and if you got less than 25 employees, if you're providing health insurance to your employees and paying for that, there is a calculation. So whatever you paid for your health insurance for those employees, you may be entitled to a credit on your taxes.
Let me just make sure I understood for myself and also for our listeners.
Sure.
When you say pay less than $50,000, you're talking $50,000 salary.
Salary, correct.
Okay. And not for health insurance.
No,
Although it is very possible these days that you could be paying $50,000 a year for health insurance.
That is also true.
George just
used to, when family of four, back in the olden days when I worked for other people.
Wow. So, those were great tips, Gene. So, I'm looking at my clock. We're starting to wind down a little bit toward the end of the show. It's always amazing how fast the shows fly.
It does go fast.
You author, you write weekly and daily, but I've also seen you all over the news. Fox News, Fox Business, I believe it's MSNBC or CNBC. How do you go about what? Because I'm sure there are other business owners that would love to be able to have that kind of publicity or to become an expert in their field. And they probably are and could offer value. What is that transition step? How did you go from Gene Marks, CEO of the Marks Group, to Gene Marks, the guy I went to college with, all of a sudden all over Fox News and the media?
Well, actually, so my path is a little bit different than what I can recommend to your listeners. Mine is because I write in a bunch of different outlets like the New York Times and Forbes and Inc. that people in the media, sometimes ask people from the media to be on their shows. So as sort of an outside media type of opinion. And that's what's gotten me involved in appearing on those shows. Having said that, Steve, I know for a fact that most of the shows, particularly on Fox Business, let alone regular Fox News, CNBC, MSNBC, their producers are always on the lookout for business owners that can comment on different things. So you have to expect that you're not going to go on the air ever to really advertise your product because nobody really cares about that. But if you've got an opinion about something and you've got a little bit of a thick skin and something happens in the news, minimum wage, the healthcare reform, immigration, that kind of thing, the producers of these shows are always looking to see like, hey, we'd love to have this small business owner in because we want to know how's minimum wage going to affect your business. And that not only gets you on TV, but then you can do hopefully a little bit of promotion for your business. And then remember, just like we talked about at the beginning of the show, with your show and your podcast and your redistributing content, if you're ever on Fox News, hire a service, and there are plenty of them around for like $125. They'll record the clip for you, so you can not only put it on your website, but then you want to also then you market that out. Say, hey, I was on Fox News, check it out, talking about this issue. It gives you ability to have some kind of conversation about something.
And so
again, have an opinion.
Well, for some that's difficult, but at the same time, let me ask you this: so you got these producers looking for folks, and so if somebody owned an organization, a business, and they wanted to share that opinion, how do they contact these producers?
Right. So first of all, if you go online, if you go on LinkedIn, and you start searching for Fox News and producer, Fox Business and producer, you'll start bumping into producers. Once you bump into a producer, you'll automatically see other people that have been viewed by looking at that person's record on LinkedIn. And 9 times out of 10, it's other producers that were viewed. So you reach out on LinkedIn and you ask to connect to them and you say, hey, I'm always available. I'm a business owner. If you've got any topics that you'd like a business owner's opinion, feel free to reach out. And that's a way to start the conversation with them. And that's where LinkedIn is the best place to find them, in my opinion.
Well, Mark, who's our social media expert and is really a LinkedIn expert, is shaking his head. He's smiling. You wanted to add something, I can say.
Well, it's
Please.
just, that's the secret of what I do. And most business people don't understand that you've got to actually go out and do a little bit of homework, and you're going to find those individuals that can help hook you up, so to speak.
Right.
It's for those of you listening who might need a little help with your LinkedIn, you can visit either CEOmanship or find me on SoFlo Radio, and Mark is always there posting, and you can contact Mark through his LinkedIn just to show that it works. Gene, I was reading an article that you wrote a little while back, and you talked about how Marriott and AT&T are using technology to, you used the word steal from their customers. That's a pretty bold statement. I thought maybe this would be a good last question to ask you, but maybe what were you? I read the article, so I understand. But for those of you who haven't, can you share a little bit about what you were saying and what they're doing?
Sure. And just a little shameless plug. I'm like I'm number 1 on Forbes today. I didn't even realize that because I wrote an article on net neutrality. And if you write anything on net neutrality, you get people coming out of the woodwork calling you, names and all sorts of stuff. That's just as an aside. This article, which also appeared on Forbes, was all about what Marriott was doing. I kind of wanted to focus on them a little bit. They, I don't know, they were fined by the FCC, like $500,000. So they were like guilty of this. When you go to a conference and, you want to get internet at the conference, and these hotels, they charge like an arm and a leg for the internet service that's provided by the hotel for conference goers. And this was at the Marriott, the Gaylord in Nashville.
In Nashville, Tennessee.
So this one is in Nashville. They had conferences there. It turned out that Steve, you're at a conference and you're trying to get internet access. You don't want to pay for it through the hotel, and the conference organizers don't want to pay because it's exorbitant. So what do? You're like, hey, I've got my cell phone here. I'll just connect this way through my Verizon because I have a data plan with Verizon or AT&T, and I'll get online that way, right? Well, it turned out that at the Gaylord in Nashville, Marriott had its own employees walking around the conference area with special software on their mobile devices to jam the internet connections of conference goers so they could not use their own cell phone service, their own data plans to connect to the internet. Therefore, they could have no internet connection at all. They were actually willfully doing this. And they got so many complaints, the FCC came down on them and fined them.
So how did they end up getting caught?
I think they just got a ton of complaints from users, from conference goers. Somebody brought it to the FCC's attention, and they wound up finding it's pretty despicable. And that's what I wrote about. It's that kind of practice it's despicable.
Yeah, I read that article and I was absolutely shocked to think that somebody would. Well, you know what? I'm not shocked, but I was shocked to think that a hotel brand as large as the Marriott.
They have jammer detectors. They have jammers and jammer detectors, just like the police have radar detectors.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah. What a crazy world.
Yeah. So, Gene, if I'm a business owner and I'm interested in learning a little bit more about CRM software or maybe working with your organization, they can visit Gene Marks, MarksGeneMarks.com, correct?
Correct, or marksgroup.net.
Or marksgroup.net.
That's right.
And so please do, and if you do connect with Gene, not only do I highly recommend Gene and his company. He's a great guy, and they do great business. But I know that Gene would love to know that you contacted him because you heard him on our show, CEOmanship. We're coming to that point in the show where we are getting ready to say adios. So, Gene, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day and coming to us from beautiful Philadelphia.
Thank you, Steve.
And
thank you, George. Thank you, Mark.
You bet.
You're welcome. Actually, this was the quickest 60 minutes I can recall in a long time.
It was good. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun, and I knew coming into this show today that time was gonna fly. I just want to say thank you to everybody, to all of our listeners. Once again, my name is Steve Gordon, and I am the CEO of the Gordon Partnership Group. Our firm specializes in CEO Bootcamp. We work with business owners to help you go from stuck to wildly successful. And it would be a pleasure to work with your firm to help your sales managers and sales reps to grow their business and grow your business at the same time. I'd love to come in and speak to your organization, whether it's a small one-on-one, something through Skype, or a keynote speech. We do it all. For me, you can reach out to me at gordonpartnership.com or my email steve@gordonpartnership, that's GORDON, partnership.com. On Facebook, it's Gordon Partnership. On Twitter, follow Steve Gord. Gord, there's no O-N, just on Twitter. Instagram, Gordon Partnership. LinkedIn, search for Steve Gordon and Gordon Partnership. Again, on the iTunes podcast library right after this show, just search for CEOmanship. And once again, our website, gordonpartnership.com. Gene Marks of the Marks Group in Pennsylvania, you're awesome, great guest, so glad to have you, and I hope that you'll come back again. And we have so much, I have pages of questions we never even got to.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
So please come back, and anytime you're welcome. George, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Steve.
Mark, happy Thanksgiving. Everybody listening, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a safe and healthy and happy holiday. For those traveling, be careful because it's supposed to be kind of messy out there in lots of parts of the country. I will be back next week, Steve Gordon, on SoFloRadio.com.
SoFloRadio.com, the South Florida Radio Network.